Welcome to the Gentleman's Talk, where the podcast talks about a man's battle with mental health, his personal experiences, and his journey to be a better soul. Hosted by James Dean Littlejohn.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the live chat with the Gentleman's Talk. Got some tunes on in the background, and I needed to calm down a little bit actually, so this is why I've jumped on live. Just because I had a topic spiraling through my head, and I just thought I'll go live, see if there's any interaction, anyone wants to jump on board. But the sat here sweating, I've still got coronavirus, and I was pushing myself through to do things I shouldn't be doing, so I kind of went to the point where I was like, calm down, James, jump on a podcast, and you've just done one, but do a live, do something different, see who jumps on board and see who listens away. I've got some tunes on in the background, and I'm here. And a really, really important subject I want to talk about. They're all important, if I'm brutally honest, with regards to, sort of mental health and stuff like that, but it was an interesting concept that I've raised on quite a few of my previous podcasts, actually, which was this notion that men we all seem to do this certain thing when we're feeling like mentally vulnerable, or we're in a dark place or anything like that. We kind of go to this point where we assume that we should perceive the fact that we're okay. We seem to perceive that fact, don't we? We seem to find a way of everybody else looking like we're okay. We automatically go to the point where we're like, no, I don't want to worry about that. I don't want anybody intruding on my space or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the complete opposite, and I'm going to show the world that I'm fine, even though inside I'm, absolutely dying potentially, So, and I cast my mind back to a little statement I made on my last podcast, which was mental health illness is a silent illness, isn't it? You don't really, unless you're, in extremities where, you're acting out, you're being kind of a bit stupid, or you're doing wayward things. You'll kind of get to the point where it's quite silent. You don't really know. You can't really look at somebody and go, he's got mental health, or, he's got a mental health problem. I can tell. It's like a lot of illnesses, if you've got a broken arm, you've got a cast on. You know that he's got a broken arm, got a broken leg, he's got a cast on, and he's walking with a stick. So you tend to know. When you see other illnesses, say for instance, I don't know, chucking out there, Down syndrome, for instance. So there's people that, you'll see someone with Down syndrome, and they've got like a characteristic about them. So you can understand that you can visibly view them in a slightly different way. Now, we don't mean to do that, but we do. We view them in a slightly different way. We'll be a bit more caring, because a lot of us are educated in the sense of Down syndrome and what comes with that. And some of us, including myself, have got friends that have children. I've got a very good friend of mine, actually, my local tattoo artist, who I know very, very well. You tend to grow a bit of a friendship when you're in a seat for 12 hours getting tattooed, and you tend to talk about quite a lot of things. I've been a tattoo artist anyway, where you do hardly ever talk, you just kind of get through the day. But with this tattoo artist, he's amazing. And, we really sort of kind of connect on a similar sort of level. So we've got a lot to talk about. And he has two children with Down syndrome. He went through a situation where he couldn't have children. His wife couldn't conceive. So they tried IVF, and eventually it was successful. That's quite aggressive drum and bass in the background there, isn't it? Sorry about that. It's just all of a sudden transitioned to a bit of a dirty bass line. But it's a visible thing, isn't it? It's visible. You can physically view that he's got a child with Down syndrome. So you expect things to be slightly different with the demeanor of the child or the adult, whatever structure. Very easily identifiable. one of the unfortunate things I think with, in fact, 2 seconds while just going to skip this track. It's a bit too dirty, for me this time of the day. Ironically, that track was called Stress Relief. I literally, quite honestly, don't believe it. That was not Stress Relief. That was a dirty bass line. But it's really important that we identify that mental health is an invisible illness. It's something that we hide. It's something that, and even now, I've had mental health illnesses. I've had my mental health illness for the best part of, I'd probably say 10, 11 years now that I've been enduring it. So, you know, I've learned a lot of negative coping mechanisms. I've learned a lot of positive coping mechanisms since starting my podcast in January this year and really grabbing hold of it at 40. I went, no, I can't keep living like this. I don't want to keep living like this anymore. So I kind of did the complete opposites, and I spun my life around, and I went, how the hell? I've had a lot of therapy. I've had a lot of, I've read a lot of literature, and I've sat on a lot of courses. So for me personally, I think it was about interacting. It was about learning from those. And instead of talking it and talking the talk like I always do, it was more about transferring that into my own life and actually making my own life better, which in turn will hopefully make people around me better. And, you know, we can promote that self-healing and we can promote that. But it's really important to recognize that mental health is an invisible illness. You don't instantly recognize it. You don't look at somebody and go, they've got mental health problems. If you know that person for long enough, you can kind of tell from their characteristics. You can kind of tell, you know, when they're in a low mood, but it will still take quite a prolonged period because we have a really good ability when you have mental health problems to mask it. And even so earlier on, I was, so I'm on LinkedIn, and part of my sort of kind of continuous professional development is to share posts to do with health and safety, identify health and safety concerns and issues, and show that I'm promoting health and safety. So even though I've had a day sick today, and you know, kind of should be really relaxing, I jumped on social media and I shared a post, and it was about being Mental Health Awareness Week. So this is Mental Health Awareness Week, so it's really important to try and identify that. And so I promoted it this morning, and then in the little spiel I put in about my own experiences. So I said, you know, as this is a passion of mine, as somebody who's experienced mental health and lives with mental health conditions, I have permanent PTSD. Somebody who's endured these problems, I wanted to share a post, create awareness. When I posted that, I still edited the post 3 times and removed a lot of the details from it because I still felt there was a stigma. Do people want to read that? Do people want to hear that? Am I showing myself as being vulnerable in a senior management position? Potentially I am, with my boss and a couple of other of my colleagues that follow me on the social media network. And I was like, will they think that, you know, oh, he's sick, what's he doing with this? Do you know what I mean? I felt there was a stigma still, even though I talk about this, and I'm 60 odd episodes in, and I talk about it all the time, and I really, really do advocate mental health. I really do absolutely support it. And I think that we're not self-aware. I do believe that there is a percentage, as with any experience of this world, that abuse that fact. Unfortunately, we're always going to get that. But the crux of it, the main point of it is, we are in a faster paced world. We are constantly performing all the time. You're performing in and out of work all the time, whether it's in a friendship, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's at work, whether it's doing DIY, you know, doing whatever you're doing. We're always trying to promote ourselves, push ourselves. And I think that even more so now, with regards to the way that the current climate is and everything's so expensive, we try to take on a lot of these challenges ourselves, don't we? We try to take on those challenges, and we try to learn things that we wouldn't normally have to do because we can't afford to do those things. So we're like, right, I'm going to put a fence up. Well, normally I'd pay a builder to come around or whatever to come around and do it. It won't cost me a lot, but the cost of everything's gone through the roof. So it's easier for me to buy the products and try and do it myself. So But what you don't realize you're doing is you're actually putting stress on yourself, undue stress, because you're trying to learn a new skill, you're trying to learn a new activity, as well as function in all the other activities that you've developed naturally. Just functioning on a daily basis when you've got mental health can be really, really difficult. Just getting out of bed and having a shower can be really, really difficult. But from the outside, you can be, well, I don't understand why you're ill. And I've had this many, 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 many times. I don't understand. What do you mean you're ill? What do you mean you've got mental health? Never would have thought you've got mental health problems. Why? Because you can't see it. Oh, right. Okay. So because you can't see my illness, because it's not in front of you, it's not screaming at you that I don't have an illness. Right. Okay. Well, and that's where it's really hard. That's why I'm so open and honest, I think, because I'm like, I've got this. I'm not asking you to deal with it, but I'm asking you to accept it. And I'm asking you to, if you want to be part of my friend or you want to be part of my group, please learn it, because I might do things along our friendship and along our journey that might impact it if you don't know about it. And that's really important, and I put myself under undue stress all the time. I'm quite literally all the time stressing myself out, trying to learn new things. For instance, it seems really trivial, but I had this thing this year where I wanted to learn to grow plants. So I've nurtured my garden. I want my own fresh grass. I don't want synthetic grass. I want proper grass, and my dad last year bought me, 10 rolls of grass. Now, seems very trivial to most people, but in actual fact, it was really important to me because it was a gift from my father. So everyone's gone like, just put artificial grass down or just pull it up and put new grass. You don't understand. This was a gift from my dad. So that grass means something to me. So I've nurtured it. Although, it's the old adage saying with, Rodney and Del Boy and Matey Boy, I can't remember his name, which is really poor of me, but I haven't seen him in such a long time. I can picture his face. Anyway, they said, this the same brush I've had for 25 years. I've replaced the handle 20 times and I've replaced the head 40 times or something. Do you know what I mean? So it's completely not the same. It's not the same brush, but to him it is. And that's the same thing with the grass. It's the same grass that was given. The foundation of that grass was given to me. So I've got an attachment to it. Anyway, so I'm learning this year to nurture grass, how to feed them. I put down Epsom salts in the beginning of the year because that's helped put nutrients back into the soil. So I'm learning all this. And anyway, I'm growing this cheese plant, not cheese. And if you know about plants, it's called a cheese plant. It's a leafy plant with with holes in the leaves to represent that old feature of cheese with holes in it. Like the old Tom and Jerry scenario. And I last weekend, through frustration, because I wasn't very well and I was just kind of frustrated. I want to do something. I was like, I need to cut this plant back, and I've cut it back too much to the point where I think it's almost dying. So it's out in the sun today. I've fed it a load of nutrients in the soil and tried to re-soil it to try and give it a little bit of regeneration. But it's really important that I'm watching this plant potentially die through something that I've caused, and I feel quite attached to it. So it's a really important feature so I've put myself under a bit of pressure there, undue pressure, but that's stressing me out. So for me personally, it's about trying to recognize that, trying to understand that, and one of the most important things I've discovered from that is take your time. Just slow the process. Don't try and speed the process up unnecessarily. Don't do things you don't know you're capable of doing. And I wasn't capable. I cut too much off that plant. So anyone would have said, no, cut back a little bit. I think it's 20% of the plant. I probably cut about 50% of the plant back. So it's probably shocked it. It's like, what are you doing, mate? Well, I was thriving, and and I can relate that almost to life. Some of us get cut down too much, and it's really hard for us to come back. And I relate that very much. And whilst I was doing it, I related it metaphorically to mental health. That I've been held back considerably in my career because of my mental health. I haven't pushed myself, or I've also shown cracks, signs of weakness, because of the mental health, and it's really has held me back quite a bit. But since I've grabbed it, since I've dealt with or dealing with it and living with it, but coping with it, that's the most important part. Developing coping mechanisms. I feel myself getting stronger. Yes, I have good days, and yes, I have really bad days. Nothing will stop you. When you live with a mental health condition, we all, I think, suffer from, bouts of mental health. Um, and I raised this little concern. I raised a little thing a little while ago actually about mental health and mental illness, and trying to define the difference in mental injury, which is a really important debate that I want to have with somebody. So hopefully in the future I'll have a little debate with somebody about that. But I related that plant to life, to my own mental health, where I turned around and went, have I been I cut myself down too much? I've beat myself up too much. That it's really hard for me to come back, and it's become a challenge, but a challenge that I'm willing to accept nonetheless. So yeah, massively important to understand that, recognize, don't beat yourself up, don't cut yourself down too much. Take your time, cut down little bits, do it in stages. And I'm learning a lot through plants actually, of like, oh, I'm overfeeding it or I'm overwatering it, so maybe I'm giving it too much love, which you can do. They end up going, well, slow down, mate, you're smothering me. Do you know what I mean? Very relatable, isn't it? Or there's times where I've not bothered and I've left it a couple of weeks, and I've gone in and pushed the top of the soil, and it's drier than the Sahara Desert. You know what I mean? So I'm sort of sat there going, okay, could have done with a bit of water, and it's sat there, and you can see it's gasping for water. It's limp, and a couple of times I've put some fresh water into it, and I've gone, wow, and then like a day later, it's thriving. To relate that context into mental health, it's very important to understand when you need that love, when you need that attention, and when you don't need that attention. Some people, we can smother people too much, and we can almost not let them develop themselves and win and sort of kind of challenge themselves to better themselves, because it's important with mental health to support people, really important to support people, but it's also important to let them stand on their own 2 feet and understand the situation. It's really important to let them stand on their own 2 feet and then guide them, support them. And that's almost what we do with plants, isn't we? We let them, we give them the nutrients that they need to flourish, and then they flourish and they show us. And I'm very much fixated on cacti and plants that sort of change the conditions, the atmosphere of your own environment. So very oxygenating plants. They take all the bad stuff out of the plants, almost like what we do with HEPA filters and all that sort of stuff. I'm doing it with natural plants. Never used to be involved in it, never used to be interested in it, if I'm brutally honest. But I've so far I've got a plant, a cacti actually, that I bought in a little tiny pot from a garden centre for about, I think it was about $2.99, something like that. And it was about a 1-inch tall plant. And I'd had a cacti before, and I overwatered it. It almost rotted from the inside. I didn't know you could do that, but you literally can. So I overnourished it. I was like, yeah, just give it loads of water. It will keep absorbing it and it'll keep growing. Wrong. It died. It rotted. So I went for attempt number 2, but this time I learnt about it. I looked at this, how to care for a cacti. In actual fact, it doesn't need a lot of water, and they're used to having not a lot of water, so they store it, and then they grow and they flourish through the sun. So it's putting it in the right place, putting it in the right environment. It's really grimy beats in the background, isn't it? I'm just listening away to this. In fact, bear with me a second. I'll just change the tunage. Yeah, there we go. Something a bit better, a little bit more relatable till some other grimy, dirty beat comes on. But it's very important we do that in life, and I've learned through caring for different plants, different variants of plants, that it's very important to do that in life, isn't it? It's very important to, if you know somebody that's got a mental health condition, is dealing with a mental health problem, and you want to support them, it's hold on, and then it's Yeah, sorry, that's just my wife saying hi. Very important to nurture the right people and nurture the right environment, isn't it? It's very important to do that. Give them the right nutrients to grow, and then let them grow. Don't smother them too much. Don't over nutrient. Don't give them too much information. Give them the right amount of information, the right amount of support, the right amount of love, and you'll understand. And people will say, "Well, how do I know how much to give them? How do I know how to nurture them?" This is where you develop a friendship, you develop a relationship. If this is translatable in anything you do, whether that's a relationship or a friendship, or a work colleague. If you give them the right amount of information about you, just enough to support you, but not enough that you get smothered. So that's why I'm very open about my own mental health conditions, because I've had a conversation with my boss actually last week and said, look, man, I'm really sorry. You were new to I've transitioned across to a new job. You're now my boss. I must advise you that I do have permanent PTSD, and sometimes I get a little bit, X, Y, and Z. And I don't need mollycoddling. I'm fully comfortable with managing it myself, but I just want you to be aware so that you can understand that if you come across a scenario that seems out of character, potentially it's because of my mental health or my mental illness, should I say. And he didn't really understand that. And I've noticed this actually. This has become a reoccurring theme that most of my bosses are, 10 years older than me. So they're in their 50s. And I'm noticing now a lot of the people that are in their 50s don't understand it. They don't know how to deal with it. Most of my friends are similar age or younger. So, 10 to 35-ish or whatever. Minimum, I think one of my youngest friends is like 33. So, but they've all grown up with this. They've all dealt with this. And a lot of the people that I struggle with are the people that haven't grown up with it, or very much see it as a man up type scenario, man up, get on with it. What you're on about is a problem, so it's not relatable, it's not transferable, which is why I find it very difficult with my own mental health condition to deal with this from some managers' perspectives. And that's not a detriment to them. I'd say that's a detriment to the company, to the environment, to the work environment. And this is across multi sort of organizations I've worked for. Seems similar. You get to a certain role and you are perceived as being, suitably qualified and experienced. So you're in that role. You're in a managerial role now. Yeah, I'm showing all my experience. I'm giving all of my knowledge and wisdom down. I'm supporting the organization. In actual fact, you're so out of touch with the local problems, or you're so out of touch with the common problems that you don't know how to deal with those. So one of the things I found abundantly clear is I'm a very ambitious person. I'm literally, I want to, there is no limit to my sky. I just want to keep reaching. Excuse me. So I'm very ambitious, and I thrive on taking on knowledge, experience. So for me, I'm constantly learning, and I want to learn because I want to know how to do my job and everyone else's job around me. Now, that's not because I'm arrogant and I want to push them out, because that would be a very negative way to look at it. But in actual fact, I want to do it so that I can understand and I can support my colleagues. So if I understand a bit of their role and they ask me a question, hopefully I can help them. The same as my boss. I like to know his role, because then if he wants to ask me a question, I'd be like, well, this is how I'd approach it, but you're the boss, you crack on. So I offer my support, and it's from a support basis. But I have noticed that a lot of the older generation, when I talk about my mental health, they go, okay, thanks, or all right, then no worries, or okay. I think the reaction I got from one of my bosses recently was, when I told him about it, said, oh, I've got permanent PTSD, it doesn't impact my work. I'm very professional. You will never see me wage. I don't go sick from it. I haven't been sick for any mental health since I've had it. I absolutely will not do it. But certain scenarios, and one of my things is, I like an answer back. So if I send an email, I like acknowledgement that the email's there, so I know that it's been dealt with. Because one thing with PTSD is you do get a bit frazzled, you do get a bit wired. And one of the things I've noticed with PTSD is I forget things a lot. So I need to know when I pass the information on that you've got that information, you've read it, you've understood it, and I can let it go. He didn't get that. So when I told him, I said, I've got PTSD, he went, oh, that's good then. Oh, no, sorry, I didn't mean that. Because he wasn't educated in mental health. He doesn't know how to deal with mental health problems. He just sees me as, he said, oh, you're very enthusiastic, mate. Right, so now we see enthusiasm as a negative. No, it's because it can be perceived as overwhelming to the people that just want to do their job and get on with their job. I don't. I want to do my job, get on with my job, and move further on. The mental health side of me, my PTSD, because I don't like to sit and dwell on things, I constantly keep myself active. So the negative side to my PTSD is I'm constantly wanting to learn. I'm constantly wanting information. I'm constantly diving in deeper than most people would because I want to understand the problem. I want to understand how it occurred. And with health and safety, which is a very, very good environment to be in if you suffer from mental health, because it does keep you very occupied. One of the things that I learned is you can dive in as deep as you want to health and safety, and you can find the answer. The problem is not many people want the answer because they're like, shit, that's the reality of it. So they try to patch it over, and with health and safety, it's not going anywhere, unfortunately. It's going to be here in its abundance and entirety. So very important to understand. So for me, it ticks all the boxes. I'm all over it. I love health and safety because I get to dive into different scenarios on a daily basis. The problem is that can be quite overwhelming when you're asking people very intrusive questions about what's happened, incidents, etc., and they take offence to it. And I just sit there and go, well, unfortunately, mate, I've got law on my side, so I know I'm protected because I'm doing the right thing. Unfortunately, that can be perceived as quite a negative by people from the outside who want to try and hide those things. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, really. It helps me, doesn't help others. But going back to what I was saying earlier on, it's very, very, very important to offer the right support to these people that are listening to you, that are confiding in you. Very important to nurture. Like I said, we transfer this into growing plants. And if you know how to grow a plant, you know how to look after somebody. It's a similar scenario. If you overwater it, it's going to die. If you underwater it, it's going to die. Whereas humans, you overwater a human, you will die. You underwater it, you'll die. So if you don't give it the right food, you put on weight. If you don't give a plant the right food, it will just die. So and eventually obesity. So this is very transferable, very relatable context. And I think that's probably why I enjoy it because, for me personally, who's this? Linga Longa, how's it going? So I just jumped onto a cheeky little thing. Hi, nice to see you. Just talking about mental health, and I'm just jibbing away. It's easier for me to talk on mental health, but stay as long as you want to listen, mate. So it's all good. Just talking about mental health and transfer relatable skills into growing plants and things like that. Not talking about growing plants, but yeah, I do take calls in, mate. I do take calls. I take you jump on, mate. Jump aboard if you want to have a chat, mate. I think it's on thingy, so more than welcome. Jump on it, buddy. Someone's joining in.
G'day, mate.
How are you?
I'm good.
Oh, hold on. I might have to. How's that?
Yeah, I can hear.
How's it going, mate? Sorry, it's got to have my mic on because I was jibbing away for ages there.
Oh, that's all right.
I think.
Right. How are you, bud? You good?
Yeah, good. Where you from, mate?
Down under?
Oh, you're down under, are you?
Yeah, just on the other side.
Nice. Yeah. What's the weather like over there?
Starting to go into winter, so it's starting to get cold.
Yeah. Wow, your definition of cold and my definition of cold will probably be different. I'm in the UK.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like, I watch the Premier League and I see they're starting to wear t-shirts, so
are they?
Warming up.
Yeah, it's not too bad over here. I think it's about 19 today. I'm sat in my man cave.
That's good.
Just chatting away, but yeah, it's all right. It's a lot warmer than it's certainly been in the last few months.
Hey, just on your men's mental health stuff, I wanted to bring your attention to something real quick.
Yeah, fire away.
Down here, we've had this thing called the men's table.
Oh, okay.
And you can look it up. I'll type the thing into the chat for you.
Yeah, please.
But the men's table is an organisation like an NGO, like non-government organisation
Oh, okay.
that's been put together to bring men together to meet once a month at a venue that's agreed, usually a private room or something.
Yeah.
And then we get the same 12 blokes become mates, and they meet every month
Oh, right.
for an hour and have dinner, and then just there's a couple of rules to it. Like, one of the big rules is you're not allowed to talk about football. You're not
Good.
allowed to talk about shit. You have to talk about the things that are going on in your life. And I think they've got, like, one of their slogans is, "We're not just about footy and shit."
Oh,
So,
good.
yeah, so I think
That would be amazing.
we just started one down here with 12 blokes in the community, and fantastic.
Oh, brilliant.
You know, I thought it would be a pity party.
Yeah,
you know,
that
where
would be.
people sort of have a bit of a cry about everything, but to be honest, people are they're sharing the positive things in life, but also sharing the negative things.
Yeah, I think
And
it's really important to share the negatives, but at the same time, underpin them with positivity, because if we just talk about negativity all the time, it just brings you down. But if you underpin everything with positivity, it helps promote it, doesn't it?
yeah, but I think it's also people. You know, I don't know if you've ever been involved with like an Alcoholics Anonymous type setup, but one of the things that comes from that sharing experience is I might hear something you say that is actually my issue that I've never been able to articulate. So
Yeah, fully relatable. I mean,
in that.
I deal with a lot of my network is military. So I'm ex-military myself. So, but a lot of the people I talk to, because my main mental health illness is post-traumatic stress disorder.
Sure.
So it's very relatable to a lot of military personnel, things like that. So for them, we are quite, and it's also just, I'm very big on promoting men to talk in general, because we hide a lot of things. But it's also, I can offer that. I offer the things I've dealt with, and a lot of the times, especially military men, they hide behind the whole green canvas type thing, and they don't want to talk about it. But when they hear you talk and you're open about it, they tend to be a little bit, they'll take something away, they'll digress it, they'll analyze it, and then the next time when we meet again, they're a bit more open about things.
Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, I'm a big, I've done a lot with first responders, so through civil, which is similar. You know, I think any of us in our 40s have done 10 years either in military or civil.
Yeah.
Defense stuff we've been exposed to enough shit.
Yeah, shit is the word.
to build up if you didn't learn how to get rid of it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely so much. Is it something that are you involved in this, the table thing then?
Yeah, I am. I've been, I've gone through some, I don't know that I was ever diagnosed, but there's been, it's one of those things with PTSD it's a bit of a trickle effect. It can be the last drop that gets you.
Yeah, definitely.
Not the years of shit, No,
I mean, I didn't, my years of shit were like 10 years. 10 years I dealt with it. I hid it. Yep. I carried on through work. I excelled in work, if anything. I was more functioning through PTSD because I didn't want to acknowledge I had PTSD. And then it was the last drop was December this year for me. And, that was almost the time. And luckily I had a really good support network around me. And in January, I started the podcast. I started just looking at who was around me, who I was dealing with on a daily basis, and found I was in a very toxic environment. So I just I had to make those changes and cut the toxicity out of my life. And the more that I'm doing this, the more that I'm engaging, like I say, I would have never have met you if I hadn't have done this. So for me, it's invaluable. It's talking about other people's experiences and learning from them. And if we learn, I think women do it best because they love a good chat, but men don't. We kind of just, like you say, we just talk about football or sports all day long. It doesn't really get to the matter of it, does it?
No, that's actually one of the things that that whole men's table concept was about, was that we see women go to the coffee shop and they'll talk about life,
Yeah,
and and you can hear them. If you ever sit near them, you hear them talking about life, and you think, geez, have rabbit on, listen to them.
yeah, they do.
I'd never do that with my mates. You
No,
know what I mean? I would never talk about this shit with my mates. And then when you think about it, you know, um, there's a big gap for men, because you're not going to talk to other women about it. Some of you won't talk to your own women about it.
yeah,
And then, who's left?
exactly that.
Who's left to talk
And
to?
do you know what? And the more that I look and learn about this, and we accept. We love unconditionally women, children, and animals. We love them unconditionally, no matter what. And there is a grey area there for men, and women, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. Women will talk to their children about their problems. They'll talk to other women about problems. They'll talk to their parents about problems. But men, we just shut down. We just go, nah, I'm not really interested. And when someone talks to me or used to talk to me, you'd be like, all right, dude, do you want to cuddle, mate? Do you know what I mean? But in a sarcastic way. Whereas now I think, I liken it that we are transitioning across to being a bit more open, because we do need to talk about ourselves. As this suppression phase is no good to us, and we can't function. But I'm noticing, since I'm talking, like just having a great conversation with you is helping me, because it's like you meet new people, you engage, you learn how to deal with these problems on a daily basis. It's so invaluable to men to be able to just let go of the pressures of life.
Yeah. I mean, is it weak? I mean, this is probably the biggest question.
I know that, and I asked that question, that exact question this morning to myself when I put a post this morning on my LinkedIn, and I was just talking about it, and I was saying that I even felt, I even put in there, this isn't a sign of weakness, to try and reinforce my own statement, and it isn't about weakness. I know a lot of women say, I want a man to be strong. I want a man to, no, I don't want to listen to his feelings. But in actual fact, we are still human beings. Yes, we do push ourselves quite a bit, but we are still human beings. We still need to talk about these things.
Yeah, I mean, probably one of the things I've noticed through the more and more exposure to shit, as we called it,
Yeah.
is that it becomes, I don't know what it's like for you, but some of the triggers have become more human elements.
Yeah.
So, mechanical damage or, destruction of that, you can process that. But I think for me, it's like I saw a kid recently getting, they'd been displaced from their house, and they were in a shelter, and the kid was getting a biscuit given to him from a nurse.
Right.
And out of all the things, I've seen so much shit, but out of all the things I've seen, there was this little moment where I just went, oh, you know what I mean?
It puts your life into perspective, doesn't it?
And I thought to myself, is that a weakness now that I'm starting to notice these things? Because I would have looked past it before.
No, I
You
don't.
know what I mean?
I don't think it's weakness at all. I think it's empathy. I think it's actually looking at it's actually taking that mask off and noticing that there is a lot of shit in this world that we just choose to ignore and we choose to get on with. And, if you were a woman, she would have seen that and she would have gone, she probably would have gone over and bought a packet of biscuits and said, here, have a packet, not just one. Do you know what I mean? Whereas men, men tend to go, like you said, you would have you would have turned a blind eye to it. But now that you're opening up and you're becoming, a little bit more in tune with your own mental state, you're actually noticing things that are more important than just the trivial shit that my team hasn't scored the goal and he's at the bottom of the fucking league. Do you know what I mean? You're actually noticing that there's people out there that are struggling like hell. And then you start looking inwards and going, can I help them? Can I make their life slightly better? Without taking too much on board, because otherwise you would stress yourself out. But just by acknowledging that, you've taken a step forward, haven't you?
Yeah, I think so. And I think probably like the whole needs to be a time and a place. Like I don't know if you would have found this with critical incident jobs or ones where you'd worked really hard or gone through some shit together.
Mm.
It used to be, and I remember this quite distinctly, like even 10 years ago, you'd go sit down with the old fellas and or the experienced people, and you'd have a few beers, and you'd probably have too many. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And that was your debrief.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was fucking it.
Yeah, that's your we used to call it decompression.
Yep.
And it is.
You know,
I was chatting to a
and the worst bit about it was running out.
Yeah, it was, and I remember I was chatting to a friend of mine, Billy, the other day, and he said he got absolutely blind drunk, and I went, well, you probably needed it, you needed to just get that release out, and I did it the weekend before where I started drinking till 5:30 in the morning, and I was just sort of sat there, but the conversation was flowing, I was really enjoying the atmosphere, I didn't want it to end, do you know what I mean?
Yep.
But like you say, I think that these little conversations they're so good to me. I got a massive smile on my face, so I really appreciate you jumping on. It means the world to me just to talk to different people and understand. I mean, do you mind me talking about what your PTSD was, or is it something you're still dealing with?
No, I think just vicarious trauma with a whole heap of different emergency situations,
Right.
and then having to make critical decisions amongst it.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think, I don't feel that it's interesting. It's like you said. I think it actually makes you operate better.
It really does.
Like you become pretty crystal clear, and things slow down, and you can function pretty clearly about it. But I think for me, I had positive ways to be able to release. So like for me, I used music, so I played to decompress.
Yeah.
And I had friends that I could talk to, and I think there was some points there where I got pretty event low.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As
Yeah.
opposed to like not being able to cope. I think it was more like, after an event, I'd go, oh, geez, that was horrible. I don't feel good after this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what I mean.
But they weren't to the point where I was incapacitated from functioning. It was more of I had to recognize and then work out how to decompress on the spot.
Yeah.
But I think what's happening now is it's like it does become a compounding thing.
Yeah.
The more big shitty jobs you go to, the more you start to notice those little things that I was talking about, and therefore you kind of become a little bit more sensitive to the other parts of like the human elements, as opposed to the mechanical element.
Yeah, I fully relate to that, 110%. Certainly, like same sort of context as me, really. I mean, I noticed with the PTSD, and it developed into manic depression and then anxiety, and then I've been battling to deal with those. But what I did notice is that I became highly functioning, like to the point where it was ridiculous. I had too much ambition because I didn't want to settle down, I didn't want to listen to my mind. I was like, just keep going. But I became very sensitive to the little things in life. And then the little things that would hit me would actually affect me more, than the bigger things, the bigger problems. It could just be a word or just an action from somebody that I would then take massive offense to that. And everyone would be like, what are you on about, mate? Why are you taking offense to that? Because that would be the thing that would trigger, weeks and weeks of high functioning, high level of functioning in my job, like you've done, making critical decisions, or making highly functioning, writing emails out, but just it could just be a really in-depth email, but you'd walk away from it exhausted because you put everything into it. It could be small, and then someone would just say something to me like, trigger. One of the guys would be like, I asked for my pen back, believe it or not, and he turned around to me and said, I'd give you my pen back when I want to, and I'd be like, I just took massive offence to that and went to open hand slap him because I was like, what are you doing? You don't talk to me like that. But it was so unrelatable to other people that they didn't see that side because, again, it's one of those silent things, isn't it? You're just sitting there and you function on a daily basis.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like, it's probably it creates a lot of anxiety after because you've reacted to something small,
Yeah.
and then you can't work out why you've reacted to something small. Why
Yeah.
did I crack it to that?
Exactly.
And
That's
then that starts that other discussion within your own head, which is, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
Why am I upset about that
Yeah.
when I can deal with this?
Yeah, and do you know what? That's exactly what I was doing. I've done it for so long. I'd be like, but you've just done this, this, and this, or you've just done a high. I remember spending 3 weeks doing a project, spraying a Chinook aircraft for a livery, and I put my heart and soul into it, literally to the point where I kicked down a fire door to get to the keys to get the paint out because we'd run out of paint, and the manager wasn't in. So I was functioning at a high level, and then at the end of the project, somebody mixed the paint wrong for me. And I absolutely flipped my shit, like to the point where I just went absolutely mental. And everyone looked around me and went, stay away from him. He's obviously in a bad mood. But nobody could relate because they were like, you functioned at a high level for 3 weeks, but they didn't realize. So, but the fallout from that was, yeah, I got angry. Yeah, I had anxiety. But the anxiety was exacerbated by the fact that I didn't understand why that had offended me so much. And I was like, why are you doing this? And from an outside perspective, I just looked like an angry bastard. But from an inside perspective, I was screaming because I was like, "What? Why did you trigger on that, mate? What made you act so angry that you needed to ostracize yourself from 8 people in the space of 5 minutes?"
Yeah.
And I think that's the fallout of
Yeah.
health that we deal with.
Yeah. It's really interesting, isn't it? Because that goes back to that battle within, for people.
I think, yeah, and that's where I've struggled. I've struggled with the battle within, not so much with outside, from an outside perspective. And I was talking about this earlier on. From an outside perspective, everything looked fine. But from the inside, I was screaming. I was literally shouting. And I was questioning my existence. I was questioning anxiety. Why was I getting angry at such trivial shit? I remember having a massive go at one of my children one day because she snagged her shoe on the sofa. We bought a sofa. She snagged her shoe on it. It didn't cause any damage, but it made a noise. That little like semi-rip noise from the metallic bit on her shoe. And my reaction was to pull the shoes off, and I cut the shoes in half off of her feet, obviously. Now, that affected my daughter and still affects my daughter now, and it affects me now massively because I couldn't understand why I reacted like that. But it was just a reaction that I'd had, but I still have to process that now. So from an outside perspective, everyone just thought I was a crazy bastard. But from my perspective, I was like, I didn't want her to ruin my fucking sofa. But the bigger picture wasn't the fact that that had happened. It was the fact that I was dealing with PTSD undiagnosed and no support. That was the reality of it. So it's very
Yeah, look, I mean, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say it's very difficult until you're clear and you have a bit of clarity to understand why you do these things, and and then it's the fallout. You have to rectify that. So I have to now try and rebuild that relationship with my daughter to understand, because she's too young to understand, why I'd done that, why I'd made that split decision to cut a pair of boots up in front of her and go, "You've fucking nearly destroyed my boots." Yeah. But try to explain to her, in actual fact, I had underlying conditions, but you're not old enough for me to explain that to you in the depth that you need to understand it. So now I just very much like, I wasn't very well. I really apologize. And when you get older, I'll talk you through it. But I still deal with that. It's still manifests in the back of my brain that I made that decision that day.
Yeah, but on the other side, mate, it gave you an opportunity to talk to her about it later.
Yes.
You might not have had if you hadn't have done that.
No, exactly. And I think it gives me the ability to, hopefully, when I get to talk to her, she's 15 now, so we're probably on the area where we're talking about things. And hopefully it will give us that opener to go, okay, I was in a shit place, but this is why I was in a shit place. I did react like that, and that's not a justifiable reaction, but at the same time, it was the reaction that I thought I needed to do at the time. There's no physical element to it. Nobody was hurt. It was all emotional, but emotional damage can actually be more detriment than a physical damage in some terms, because it's more long term, isn't it?
Yeah, probably I'm going to leave you with a couple of things that I found worked for me. Doesn't mean it works for everyone, but
I appreciate that. Thank you.
If someone's listening to this one day, I think maybe this may be something that could help. I actually found myself physically crook from stress,
Right.
which, it's pretty much like cardio and all that sort of stuff started playing up, chest pains and all that.
Yeah.
Which isn't a normal, physiological reaction to prolonged periods of stress that will do that. And one of the things that I ended up going to this cardio and I got like an angiogram and all this shit that they thought, something was wrong. And then he gave me the best advice I'd ever had. And he told me to go and start doing yoga.
Wow. Yes.
And yoga's got it's got 3 elements that are really good, rounding things for you. And that's that whole physical presence and then the mental and then the spiritual presence if you let it as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I found was yoga was something I needed. I don't practice it at the moment, but it's something I can go back to when I get in that state again.
Yeah.
And I found it really, there was this sort of component of trauma, or exposure to trauma that my teacher, she said to me, to protect yourself, and it's a bit spiritual, so you have to forgive me, but she said to protect yourself from trauma, you can actually separate yourself from your body,
Right.
as a protection mechanism.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically what it's saying is that you detach yourself. And I think anyone that's seen horrible things would understand that, you can switch off. It's possible.
Yes.
And so, she says what that means is that after an event, it can take time for you to recenter and join yourself back up so that you feel whole again.
Yes, I agree.
And she used yoga to teach me that. And one of the other things she used yoga for was this special type of yoga called yin yoga, which is, it's where you get put into it's nearly a stress position, like you're put into an awful sort of position for the body. And the whole purpose of it is for you to understand, like yin and yang, it's for you to understand that with every bit of bad, there's a bit of good in it. And with every bit of good, there's a little bit of bad in it. You have to accept it, or you have to make a decision to change your position. So you'll sit there in this stress position for 5 minutes, deep breathing. And if you can't beat your mind will say move, and you will make a conscious decision to move. But it's the understanding that it's a conscious decision to move, which actually takes you into progress.
Right. Okay.
Or you can actually accept the little bit of pain and discomfort that goes with it, and which means that you will stay, but you've accepted it.
Right. Okay. That's amazing, mate. That's amazing.
Deep.
It's deep, but it's amazing. Like literally, I talk about mindfulness and meditation all the time, but that is just, you summed it up perfectly, mate. Thank you very much for that. That is invaluable to me, not everyone else alone, but to me that is incredible. I really appreciate. That's the nail in the coffin for an amazing conversation here, mate. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome, mate.
And I'll be sure to jump onto this, and I'll be sure to follow you as well, buddy. Thank you.
Sounds good. I've done the same, and I hope Brentford go well.
Thank you, buddy, mate. You've been absolutely incredible, and I look forward to listening to you and talking to you again in the future.
Yeah, you too. See you, mate. Bye.
Take care. Wow, that was absolutely. I'm speechless. I'm absolutely speechless at that. I'm not even going to. Hold on, while I put my. There we go. I try and put my speaker. For some reason, my speaker doesn't work when I talk with him. That there is the power of talking. It is absolutely incredible. I'm blown away that I've literally just spoke to someone in a completely different country who has just blown my mind. Actually, he couldn't have put it in any better way. If I'm brutally honest, you put yourself in that stressful situation. It's make that conscious effort to move. So, or live with it, and we use that metaphor in life. So, yeah, mate, legend. Thank you so much. Incredible. I'm going to finish there actually, because I'm going to finish on a high, and I think it's always important to finish on a high. jump onto Lingalonga's site as well and chuck him a follow. I'm hoping I can just get in touch with a bit of his music, because music is the food of life. So yeah, thank you very much. Massively important, really important. That's put such a good smile on my face. You know, that it's really sort of sparked some thought process in my mind, and I'm going to 100% jump onto a bit of yoga. I do a bit of mindfulness, I do a bit of meditation, but people talk about yoga all the time, but that's put it in a better way, that in a better way I couldn't articulate it in any other way. So thank you very much for that, Lingalonga. You're an absolute gentleman, an absolute star, and thank you for jumping on and talking to me. Slow with the ink. I'll start slow, mate. I'll start slow, because I know that I did yoga a few years back and it bloody crippled me the first day. I'm not very flexible, as most men aren't, but yeah, thank you very much, and I look forward to jumping on again with Lingalonga. And jumping onto this little. I'll see if I can promote this, the men's table .org, and I'm certainly going to jump on myself. Like-minded people are amazing to talk to. I wouldn't have got anything out of this if he hadn't jumped on. So yeah.